the sorrow. Say hello to the sorrow. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Last Goodbye Dash Book Heroes of America, a bi-weekly show that honors all Americans' heroes. I'm Johnny Pizza Fratangelo, along with my executive producer, Nicole Fratangelo-Berardi, and my commentator and co-host, Ralph Narciso, Ray-Stingray, and the Stingray, and Jenn Pro, if we can get her on. And our special guest tonight is Phil Marshall. He's the author of 18 books. Okay, this is volume 15. Helicopter Rescues Vietnam. Great stories, tale after tale after tale, that'll keep you reading it from cover to cover. Okay, and I'd like to get more of them. This is the first. I read this one all the way through. It's great, great read, great book. Tells about many stories of different veterans in the Vietnam era. Okay, and so Phil's going to give us a lowdown. And first of all, we want to wish everybody a happy new year and hope that your holidays were fantastic, healthy, and profitable. And most of all, that everybody was together and happy. God bless you all. And let's get on with the show. Hey, Phil, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for having me on again. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Good.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. You got many stories. That's why we had to get you back on.
Yeah. Well, and what you're telling me is you're ready for another book.
Yeah. Yep. It's a funny thing. Ever since I've gotten to know so many authors, and I've been reading so many books about Vietnam. You know, all these authors sent me now. They read my book. I read their books. You know, so it's really an experience, a great experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you get it. You get to see different sides. Go ahead.
Huh? I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say you get to see different sides of the war. That you can't have been everywhere and done everything. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody has their own tale. Yep. And then more to come out, more telling you. Go ahead, Ralph.
That's right. That's right. I was talking to John just today about that. It's so different. Everybody's book has a different angle to it. You know, a different way of telling the almost not the same story, but telling about the same war. John's book is unique. Your book's unique. Our guest from the SOG book, We Save SOG Souls. That is all. They're all unique in the way they tell the story, which is good.
Yeah. You get a lot of different perspectives for sure.
Yeah.
And you make so many friends.
Yeah.
I've made so many more friends. It's great. It's just great.
I've said many times, if I had to name my 10 best friends, most of them would be military Vietnam veterans.
Yeah, because they're unforgettable. They're just so close to you.
Yeah, there's a bond.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
There's so many out there too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The shame is that we're losing more and more almost every day, man.
Yeah.
That's what's sad.
Yeah. I would bet the youngest Vietnam veteran is probably getting ready for his 70th birthday. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I hit my 75th.
You're right, because I'm going to be 70 this year, and I was in the last lottery.
There you go.
That they canceled. That was the one that they canceled when they started the peace talks.
I must be psychotic. I knew that. Yeah. My ex always told me I was telepathetic. So anyway,
that's good. Maybe that's what
kept you
alive.
I wonder, just before you start with your stories, I just wonder if anybody is keeping count, if there is a count out there of how many Vietnam veterans are alive and are out there.
I don't know.
I'm turning 75 this year, but I remember as a kid when the last known Civil War veteran died, and that would have been early 50s. So he would have been over 100.
Wow.
And now I've lived when the last World War I veteran died. I doubt I'll be around when the last World War II veteran dies, but perhaps we'll
I
see.
don't know.
I think the main focus right now is on the World War II veterans because there isn't any even left, you know?
Yeah.
And then you got the Korean veterans, forget. So
yeah.
Right.
We're still a little down on the list, Phil. We still got a little ways to
go. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
All right, so let's go. You want to what story you want to tell us? Start out with tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, I could tell you about. Actually, it's the very first story that I documented. One of my best friends, who has since passed from cancer, he was a 1LT. There were 4 of us that hung around together in our unit. 3 of us were warrants. 2 of them were 19, and this 24-year-old 1LT, and I was 21 at the time, a warrant officer. And he said for some reason he seemed to get a call to pick up this one LERP patrol all the time. And one day he gets a call. He says they're under fire, they're in trouble, they got wounded, they're running, and they go in and pick them up. But as they're loading them on the aircraft, they're running for the aircraft. The medic has his .38 revolver pulled out, shooting at the bad guys with one hand and helping the wounded and the LERPs on with the other hand. And of course, the crew chief's getting them in on his side too. They get out. They get out of the LZ, and the co-pilot was the one that gave me a lot of the details. And I didn't realize it was my buddy because I had already left country. That was the aircraft commander anyway. The co-pilot says, I counted 121. We counted 121 bullet holes in the aircraft by the time they got out. Wow. And when I talked to my buddy and found out that he was the aircraft commander, he says 121 sounds kind of high, but he says, I guarantee it was a high double digits. But wow. The Huey kept flying. A lot of the instruments were shot out. Getting all warning lights looked like a Christmas tree. And they're headed back to Quang Tri, and with no hydraulics. When you have no hydraulics, it's like driving your car with no power steering or power brakes. And radios are shot out. One of the LERPs, as he was climbing in the aircraft, took a round to the back of the head and was killed. Wow. So the co-pilot has his survival radio in his chicken plate in a little pocket. And they had no commo inside the aircraft. They're having to yell at each other. Obviously, there's blood all over on the inside of the windshield. And the co-pilot calls Quang Tri Tower on his survival radio and tells everybody on guard, the problems they've got. And what happened? Okay. So anyway, so they're flying back and they're on guard. So when you're on guard, that means everybody that's got their radio tuned to the guard frequency in the background, so to speak, hears them. So he says, as they're flying back to Quang Tri, he says pretty soon he hears a couple of Cobra gunships, dust off. We're at your 3 o'clock and your 9 o'clock. We're following you in. We'll be here. And then he says, next thing he knows, he got slicks flying. He says there's this huge formation of helicopters in a V flight headed to Quang Tri. And so they call the tower. They get the tower and say, have the ambulance at the runway. We've got to make a running landing. We can't land at the pad. And he says, next thing you know, he says, either a full bird colonel or a general. Call sign was 6, whatever it was. And so he gets on the radio, says, okay, dust off. Now just remember your training, boys. Just remember your training. Just ease it in. And the co-pilot says, we're thinking, just shut up and let us fly the airplane, And so anyway, they make the landing, get the guys off, and get them to the hospital. But it was just an incredible mission because that aircraft was shot up so badly, but it got them home. And one of the things that you do when you shut down a Huey is you let the engine cool down for 2 minutes before you cut off the fuel. Right. Well, as soon as they went to flight idle, rolled the engine down to idle, the engine seized.
Oh.
After a 20-minute flight from the DMZ back to Quang Tri. So it got them home. And so they were going to lift the aircraft down to Red Beach down at Da Nang. It wasn't repairable. It was so badly shot up.
Wow.
There was no oil in the transmission, no engine oil. And so they had all these aircraft following them in like a circus. And so they hooked it underneath the Chinook to take it down to Da Nang. And something happened that it dropped off in the water, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But it was but it was certainly an ending that aircraft didn't deserve, because that aircraft was Huey was as much a hero as anybody or anything. Everybody survived except for the one guy that took the round in the back of the head getting in the aircraft. So, but there's an epilogue to this story. So our first reunion that we had probably 15, maybe even 20 years ago, one of the guys had some jackets made that were embroidered with DMZ dust off on the back, a Huey with a red cross on it. Really sharp looking jacket. I still got it. And so anyway, one of the fellows is at a parade in Michigan, Detroit, I think, and he's got his jacket on. And this guy walks up to him and he says, "Were you with DMZ Dust Off?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "I was a crew chief." He says, "Oh, wow." He says, "You guys, your Dust Off unit used to support us all the time. I was with 5th Mech." And so that was about a year after the book was out, the first book that this story was in. And so the crew chief says, "Well, hey, we've got this book out called DMZ Dust Off. You ought to check it out. You might see some things in there you recall." And the long and the short of it is, you can see it coming. He was one of the guys that was picked up on that rescue.
Wow.
And yeah, and he was able to give me the name of the guy that was killed. So I was able to honor him by name. But what are the odds?
Yes.
But
Really?
So I interviewed him and I says, "Is that how you remember the story?" And he says, "Oh yeah." He says that's very accurate. So of course there's a lot more detail to it.
You remember it. You remember.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You never forget it. But one of the interesting things, and I never thought of it. Of course, you know what a ground guide is. He's the guy that stands up with the rifle over his head. Land here. And if you do it right, which 99.9% of the time that you guys on the ground did, but when you landed that ground guide, your wounded are right outside your open cargo doors. So they're in. You're out of there.
Right.
So anyway, my buddy, who has since passed, said to me, he says they had this big Native American guy that was in the LRP unit, and he says for some reason he was always the guy that stood up with the rifle over his head. He says, "Why would the biggest guy in the unit expose himself like that all the time?" He says it seemed like every time we picked him up, it was this guy. And I said, I had no idea. I don't know why. I said maybe he was just the guy that was best at it or something. No idea. And I finally learned that it was the prestige of bringing in the helicopter. And it was, "Oh, you did it last time. It's my turn now." "No, I haven't done it for a while. It's my turn." And it was the prestige thing. So naturally, the biggest guy in the unit is going to win most of the arguments of who gets to bring in the helicopter.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm learning stuff all the time with these books. But I agree. Yeah.
You know what else I've noticed with hearing your stories and the stories from Roger Lockhart, that it's almost like it's divine intervention when almost so many of the missions, choppers made it through so much devastation and got the guys back to the hospital safe and all that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the beauty of that Huey, that it could take a licking and keep on ticking. Yeah. But one bullet in the right place, so to speak, will bring one down too.
Right.
So you never know.
It's
You never
amazing.
know.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Hey, Ray, welcome, Ray. Ray, how you doing, Stingray?
I'm
Hello,
doing
Ray.
Hey, Ray.
great. Hey, hello everybody out
Remember
there.
Phil?
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Same to you,
Happy
buddy.
New Year.
Same to you.
Happy and healthy New Year to everybody.
Same
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. And very important.
Hey, and by the way, I didn't get the beginning of the show, but regardless, I met you once before. You're a gentleman, and thank you for serving.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Of course I'm talking to you.
Where did we meet? Thank you very much. Thank you. Where did
I
we
think
meet?
I met you in my past life. I'm not really that sure, but I know I met you somewhere.
On the show.
All right.
He
Maybe you saw my picture down at the post office on the wall or something.
No. I guarantee it wasn't a picture in the post office.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good.
So, and you don't look like a troublemaker, so I know right away. But if are you a friend of Pizza's?
He was on the show before.
I am
Ray.
now. I am now.
I could have swore I've seen you before.
My 8-year-old daughter was with my wife standing in line at the post office to get stamps one day. And of course, there's a line of people. And my daughter says, "Mommy, look, there's Uncle Bobby's picture." And my wife said, "No, that's not your Uncle Bobby." "Yes, it is." "No, it just looks like him. That's not your Uncle Bobby."
Oh, is that one of the most wanted?
Yeah. So, of course, the people around them start to step aside. You know, they don't want to get too close to him.
Yeah. Ray, he was on the show once before. This is the second time he's on the show. Maybe that's where you remember.
I remember the face. I just didn't know the. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember faces. You could tell me a million names. Like even tonight, the college football. I'm saying ICU yesterday, BCU, this CU, whatever, and I still can't get it right. So, but you're a good guy. You serve this country. That's all that matters.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm like you, Bob. I'm terrible with names.
Okay, let me just ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you a big Pat Tillman fan? You know about Pat Tillman, right?
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah. Anyway, yesterday I wore his jersey. You know, he's got his own jersey, and he's a big hero out here in Arizona. But anyway, I think all you guys, right, should have a number and like an NFL shirt, because you guys are the greatest heroes of heroes.
Well, I flew with a lot of guys that were heroes. I would never call myself a hero. I was just doing my job. I mean, we all were. But I signed up for it. You're gonna make me a helicopter pilot. I'm in. I'm 21 years old. I don't have any direction in my life, and I'd like to learn how to fly helicopters. I'm going to Vietnam. Oh, okay, no problem. 1 in 10 of us probably won't make it back. Well, that's all right. I'm going to be one of the 9. That was the way it was. It was an adventure. Hey, speaking of Pat Tillman, are you ready for another story?
Sure.
Okay. And again, all these are absolutely true. Let me see where to start here. Okay, okay, we're at a helicopter event, and one of our American Huey 369 helicopter events. And my books are on display there for sale. Part of the proceeds stay in the organization. And this is just like a year or so ago. And this fella sees the books and asking me about them. And he says, well, he says, my friend Rocky Blyer was picked up in Vietnam by a dust-off helicopter. And I said, well, I know. I've got it in whatever volume it was. He said, what? And I said, yeah, I got his story in there of the day he was picked up. He's been looking for the crew that picked him up. And I said, well, so I went and gave him the book, and they said, here, give this to Rocky. I signed it, and I said, give this to Rocky. Oh, give me another copy for myself. Okay, so I signed that. And the story in there is Rocky Blyer being picked up. He almost lost his leg. And, of course, this was before he played for the Steelers. And the reason he didn't lose his leg is because the dust-off medic in the hospital was able to save it. But I haven't met Mr. Blyer yet. I look forward to it. I've been promised that he's going to come out to one of our helicopter events, but I do have a picture of him holding my book that has his story in it.
Great.
So
Wow.
yeah, so talk about coincidences. That's another one. Yeah, but this guy was just so excited that he says, "You got a story? You know the details?" And I go, "Yeah, I can tell you. I can give you the contact information for the crew and all that." So yeah,
right.
it's been an experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like I said this before. I wish I knew the guys who picked me up. You know.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we didn't know who you were. We just dropped you off the hospital and got the aircraft ready for the next mission.
Exactly.
Sometimes the medics would go in and check on a patient, like if they had to give them CPR or pop an IV in them or whatever, if they were really serious. But as far as the rest of the crew, we had other duties besides flying. When we weren't flying, the crew chiefs were taking care of their aircraft. But yeah, occasionally the medics would go in if there was a particular patient and check on them. But I didn't know who you were. Usually didn't know what you looked like. I'm busy looking out the front of the aircraft and flying. So yeah, it was an experience for sure.
Well, you
So, Phil.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So like you've talked a lot about your helicopter museum.
Yeah.
The one you have for the Hueys, right? I think you touched on this once before, but I don't know if there's been more since we talked. Have you had people come there, like Vietnam veterans who were, helped by dust-off pilots?
Absolutely. The museum itself is still under construction. It's under roof now. I think Nikki's got some pictures there for you. It's right now we're in a temporary building. It's going to be torn down. This is the new one here. This is about 2 months old. The gap that you see there in the siding is going to be an observation tower, like a control tower in an air base. So that's why that's not finished yet. But there's another view here. There's 2 wings. You can see the wings on each side. So the museum itself will be in the middle. One wing will have the flying aircraft and to maintain them, and then the other wing will be the restoration hangar, because we've got about a dozen Hueys. Now, most of them will not be restored to flying condition. It's very expensive to do that, but those aircraft will be put in the museum. So there you can see the back doors of the museum. The landing pad will be out behind the building, and that's Grissom Air Force Base, now Grissom Air Reserve Base in the background. That's about a 2-mile long runway. Hopefully we won't need that 2-mile long runway anytime soon. But the back of the museum that you're looking at there, that will be the landing pads. We have 3 restored to flight aircraft. We have Hueys. We have a 4th Huey is waiting FAA certification. But a small building to the right of the museum, right along the wood line there, that gray building, that's got about 10 Hueys in different states of repair, shall we say. If you remember many years ago, maybe 12, 15 years ago, there was a tornado hurricane that went through Atlanta, Georgia. It destroyed the roof of a hangar that a beautifully restored Charlie model gunship was in, and one of the roof beams, ceiling beams, came down and chopped right down across the top of the fuselage of that Charlie model that was restored. We bought that for a song, just for the parts, because it was just not repairable, certainly not economically feasible. But we've got some aircraft in different condition. We've got 2 Cobras, we've got a Loach, but right now we have the 3 and soon to be 4 flying Hueys.
Great.
Wow.
I tell you,
beautiful.
One thing. Yeah, one really neat thing about them is, and I might have mentioned this before, those 4 flying Huey helicopters, 3 of them flew in the Battle of the Iodine Valley, which was the battle that was portrayed in We Were Soldiers Once with Mel Gibson.
Right.
3.
Mhm.
I mean, that was a 1965 battle.
Yes, 65.
The average Huey only lasted 6 months in Vietnam, and so here we
Wow.
are with 3 flying Hueys that were in that first major battle that we served. You could not
Wow.
have planned that, but it just so happened that the aircraft that we acquired, 3 of them were in that battle.
Wow.
One of them
Wow.
is the gunship, the B model gunship. One of the 2 B model gunships that escorted Ed Freeman and Bruce Crandall in and out of LZ X-ray, where they were awarded the Medal of Honor for taking supplies in and bringing wounded out.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Wow.
in, so in,
Go ahead. I was just going to say we couldn't have planned that.
Yeah, that's amazing. But what I was going to ask is more information about your museum. First of all, it looks beautiful. Sure. The setting that you have for it couldn't be better. I mean, you got open land. It's just beautiful.
33 very, very valuable acres. That's the road between the museum and Grissom is Indiana Route 31 north, the main north-south road through Indiana. And it's very, very busy. That land is worth millions of dollars. I can't tell you. I'm not saying I won't tell you. I just don't know. We got it as a mostly a donation, but there's 33 acres there. But what was interesting about it is that we were going to be donated about half that size on Grissom next to their air museum that they have there at Grissom, and their board of directors insisted that we be open on weekends, even when we have flying events out of state. They wanted to share the proceeds of the museum, and we said no, we can't do that. And then this land across the road became available, like I say, mostly as a donation. Well, they got new board members in, and they said, hey, we would really like to work with you to get the museum here with us. And we said, sorry, you're out of luck. We got something even nicer across the street. And so, yeah, the location is perfect.
Is it going to be a type of museum that if the people go in there, they'll be able to see video of the choppers when they were actually in combat?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It'll be a first class museum. World class, I guess, would be a better term. I don't know all the details. I'm not privy to that. I just really haven't asked about it. I just know that everything that John Walker and his wife Kay do, their brother Alan Walker, everything they do is first class. The aircraft, I will never admit to it, but I know there's someone that ate their lunch off of the cargo deck of one just to prove how clean it was. Won't mention any names, but I really especially like pickle and onion.
I don't think that'd be such a hard thing to do if a guy was Vietnam and we ate dirt. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if I was hungry enough, I would eat off about anything. But
that's right.
No, these aircraft are meticulously, even the flying aircraft. I mean, they get wiped down every day. At the end of the day, we don't do anything until those aircraft are put away and ready for the next day. The maintenance is that way, very meticulously maintained. And I've said many times that I would not fly those aircraft if I wasn't confident in the maintenance.
Right. Yeah, that's, yeah. You said, Phil, you said you were a psychic.
Psychotic.
But I'm getting psychotic vision here with a name. It's coming to me. Rasmussen. I hear Rasmussen.
You're getting I've heard that name before, and I don't think it's a Russian priest or whatever. Rasmussen was the name of a dog in a gunship platoon. I think they were flying B model Hueys, but I think just about every aviation unit in the country had some orphan dogs. Of course, you had to rescue them from the dog pound, so they didn't wind up in a restaurant somewhere. But we had our own dogs. But Rasmussen used to hang out with the aircraft in the parking area all the time. And one day they're fired up and they're getting ready to go, and he jumps in the helicopter. Now apparently the crew chief had him in and out of the aircraft. But this time it's running and they're getting ready to go. So they just let him stay on, and they went and did the mission. And they said he would pretty much, he would often go. He got in the habit of going. And he would just pretty much lay on the cargo deck behind one of the pilot seats to get out of the draft. I mean, you'd think he would fly with his nose out the door, but he didn't. And then he got a little braver to the point where he would get in between the pilot seats and put his paws up on the console and look out the windshield. And they thought that was pretty cool that Rasmussen, the dog, was that interested in where they were going and everything. And this is a true story, according to the aircraft commander that I talked to. So anyway, so they're on a gun run, and Rasmussen's up there with his paws on the console, looking out the window while they're getting ready. They're getting ready to do a rocket run. And the aircraft commander, who sits in the right seat and fires the rockets, swears up and down this is true. He says he's getting ready to punch the button to punch off the rockets, and Rasmussen takes his paw and puts it up on his hand and makes him push the button before he was quite ready.
Wow.
And so the aircraft commander said he was pretty sure he got three kills with that rocket.
Wow.
And,
wow. The dog's probably,
and so, but he had to give credit to the dog. Yeah. So no, that's not a pilot rescue. That's not a grunt rescue or anything. But I had to put that in the book. You just can't make that stuff up.
Right. It's great.
Yeah. But he swears it was real, and I've seen dogs in the aircraft before. So I have no doubt that it happened.
Oh sure.
Cool. So yeah, you got your ESPN going there.
Yeah, right.
Come to think of it, not to cut you off, but people don't realize like how major dogs helped out the war. Not only just the sweep, for mines, but just other ways, physically, mentally.
It was a little taste of home.
Right.
Many of us had dogs growing up, pets, cats. Yeah.
Right. And I think that, as a kid, that's one of the attractions. I want to be a fireman because, look at a fire dog. But, or hopefully like a kid would see, there's dogs in the military. Yeah, I want to work with dogs in the military, or I want to be a helicopter mechanic, or I just want to do something in the military. Yeah. I think that's a great thing to bring out to the people. And I'm hoping that your museum will also attract a lot of younger people, and that they'll get that experience of somewhat of, wow, I want to be in the military one day, Mom and Dad,
Well, that was kind of what happened to me. I grew up within a couple of miles of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Of course, we had B-52s flying over all the time, and all kinds of aircraft, and that's what hooked me on wanting to fly. And when the Army said that I was eligible for flight school, that was a no-brainer for me. But there was a movie that I just watched recently about a dog whose handler had died, was killed, I think, in Afghanistan, and another handler kept the dog. I can't remember the name of it. It's a rather new movie. You guys might know it. But anyway, it was very, very well done. Maybe one of your listeners, or maybe if somebody had this handheld device that had all the information in the world at your fingertips, you could look it up. I can't remember who the actor was, but anyway, yeah, the dogs were important. Like I say, they were all over. Like I say, especially the aviation units. I don't know. Did I mention before? I even picked up a wounded guard dog one night.
No.
Apparently, he had tripped a booby trap, and so we were called in it was at night. Picked up the dog and the handler, I think it was a German Shepherd, and dropped him off at wherever the veterinarian was. And of course, we're flying blacked out at night as much as we can. And so we get back to base, and the crew turns on the lights to get the aircraft ready for the next mission. And there's these little bloody paw prints all over the deck of the helicopter. And I felt so sorry for him. But he got on and off on his own. So he couldn't have been hurt too badly. But yeah, we treat them like real people for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Animals are just like humans. Like, in many ways, they wanna work. Like you guys, you go in. You go in the situation. You don't know what the situation is, but you're going in there and you get the job done. And I think that the animals are the same way. They just need a little love and they're happy. You give them a pet or a little treat or something, but
doesn't take much.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, and I think it makes a world of a difference. Well,
I say it was like that touch of home. You got a pet there. Yeah, it was everybody's pet.
Yeah, I even remember during September 11th, a lot of the dogs were burning their paws on the, because it was very hot, and they would want to go right back out there and work, and get out there and do what they're trained to do, and it's so true. Like you guys, you get shot up, and I want to go back in there. I got to get the job done. You're not thinking
what we were trained. That's what we were trained for. Yeah.
Right. You're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about, saving, other people's lives or whatever. You're not thinking about the risk factors.
Yeah.
You just go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's why 1 out of every 12 names on the wall in DC are either helicopter pilot or crewman. 1 out of 12. Yeah.
It's sad. I mean, one American is too many Americans, but like the sacrifices, we always forget the sacrifices that Pizza made, the sacrifices that you made, the sacrifices of everyday soldiers, men and women that, sacrifice everything to give me and everyone else a better life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, somebody did it for us, so just kind of returning the favor. I see a question. You want me to go ahead and answer that?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Before the Army, I had a couple of hours in a fixed wing from an uncle that helped get me hooked, and then his son was a private helicopter pilot, paid for his own training and even his aircraft. And I got maybe a half-hour, 45-minute flight with him and that. So I was hooked. So again, when the Army said I was qualified for flight school, I was in. Total flight time, I've got about 1,200 hours, which might sound like a lot, but in your year tour of Vietnam, you could easily get 1,200 hours. Since my tour was cut short, and then my National Guard time and my time flying American Huey 369, like I say, around 1,200 hours. But in that time, especially your Vietnam time, you get to be one with the aircraft. You just think where you want to go. You're not making conscious movements with the controls to get where you want to go. I want to go there, and the next thing you know, you're there. It just becomes second nature to you. And you really become one with the aircraft, and it's just amazing how good you can get with those things. Now, of course, you lose a lot of that muscle memory, but I can still fly. I still land and take off. Which are the two hardest things to do in a helicopter. Anybody can fly it straight and level. The skill was hovering and landing and taking off. So flying as much as we did in Vietnam, like I say, we got to be very good at it. Not bragging, just matter of fact, that you became one with the aircraft.
Would you say,
and Phil, did you?
average pilot in Vietnam flew about maybe 4,000 hours?
Well, there was a limit. If I remember correctly, I think it was 110 hours a month was the flight surgeon, the Army decided whatever it was, 110 hours a month was the most that you could fly. So you take a 12-month tour, you're looking, the most you're going to get is around 1,200 hours because you got R&R and you got some off time and stuff. But of course, with the skills that we had, with the onboard medic, with the aircraft that we had, those amazing Hueys, you get to 110 hours towards the end of the month and you're not allowed to fly anymore. So you know what we did, don't you? You just quit logging the hours. You kept flying. You just didn't log them anymore. So, because again,
right?
What's that?
There's always a way around it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like I say, you've got the skill. It's just like when you went home early, like me going home early, or you do your 12 months and you send home. You're sent home. Of course you're happy. You survived the tour and everything. But then you start thinking, well, wait a minute. I've got this skill. I've got this training. That I should be out there rescuing more guys, and now some new guy's going to come in and take my place.
Right. We got another part to the question. It says it's just in veteran, but I think that means to say just in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you lost me.
There was another part to that question. The person wanted to know, in other words, did you fly just in? It said veteran, but I think they mean Vietnam.
Yeah. Like I say, I flew in the Ohio National Guard for about 4 years after I got out of active duty. I loved the flying, wanted to keep doing it, and they pay you pretty good to fly in the Guard. A lot of guys were going using their GI Bill for college and living on their National Guard money. So I know one fellow that became a medical doctor, going through Ohio State and using his Guard money to pay his tuition and his room and board. So military's a good deal. I needed the maturity for sure.
Yeah.
And Phil, I'm sorry, did you fly anywhere commercially?
No, I thought about it, but I wanted to start a family, and I knew that if you flew commercial, you were away from home a lot. So I looked into the State Patrol, and of course this is in the 70s, and so I talked to this one state trooper about it, and the guy is about this big and about this much taller than me, and he looks down at me and he said, you're going to have to spend a couple years on the road before you can fly, and you'll have to go through the State Patrol Academy. And I said, well, sir, I already did 9 months of that stuff. I don't think I want to do it again. So because flight school was tough. It was tough. It was to weed out the guys that would not make good helicopter pilots. It was make sure you had the male body parts to do the job. If you can't take some harassment and hazing, you don't need to be flying helicopters in Vietnam with people shooting at you. Right. It was tough. It was tough. I'm going to guess maybe 15-20% of the guys that started out with me didn't make it. Really? For whatever reason.
I got a question. If you were to explain to like a younger person that's thinking about like becoming a helicopter operator, like what thrill, like can you explain the thrill of flying a helicopter to a kid?
Sure. I can give you a very easy analogy. In a helicopter, you're using both hands, both feet. In the training helicopter, you're also using your wrist to work the throttle. And then you got to be able to talk on the radio intelligently. So you're doing 5 things with your appendages and speaking intelligently. So remember when you were a kid, rubbing your stomach and patting your head?
Well, that's like a drummer. You got five different things going at the same time, doing different things.
Well, you got to pat your head and rub your stomach. That's two of the hands. Now you got to dance a jig and don't miss a step. And you got to be doing something with your left hand, because that's where the throttle is. And if you screw any of those four things up, you crash and die.
Right.
Well, I was just gonna say that. You think about it. Just to drive a clutch, a clutch car, it is frustrating. Never mind a helicopter. I mean, that's got to be the ultimate thrill.
Well, I tell you, if the kids go on a ride, if they go down to his museum, if the kids go on a chopper ride, it's going to be thrill of their life. I'll tell you right now.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you become a member of the organization. We're a volunteer 501c3 charitable organization, and I think it's $125 now. We had to bump the price up, $125 or $150, and you get a flight in the Huey. And now you don't get to sit in the front seat, but you become a member of the organization, help us build the museum and maintain the aircraft, and you get a pretty good idea of what it's like. We fly with the doors open. Lot of smiles when they get off the aircraft.
Yeah.
I usually, if I'm not flying, I'm usually giving the safety briefings, because the FAA requires that you get a safety briefing before you go up. And I noticed one lady was very reluctant. I could just tell in her face that she wasn't real excited about going up on this helicopter with the doors open. And so at the time, it was $100. And I said, ma'am, I don't think you really want to go up on this. And she says, no, I don't. And I said, I guarantee that you will have a big smile on your face when you get off that aircraft. She looks at me, she goes, I don't know. And I said, I'll tell you what. I said, if you don't have a smile when you get off of that helicopter, I'll take $100 out of my pocket and refund your money to you out of my pocket. She says, okay. So when they landed, I made sure that I was on her side of the aircraft in the LZ that she was sitting on. And I caught her eye, and I gave her one of these numbers, and then I went like this, and she just looked at me, had this big smile on her face, and she was going like this. Yeah. So I saved $100, but it's just incredible to get to fly on a Vietnam Warbird, a real.
Oh yeah.
And you got to smile without putting a feather down the blouse, right?
I'm not even a kid, and I'm excited. I want to get on that. I want to get on that helicopter, but only if you're driving it. I don't trust nobody else.
Oh, you can trust any Vietnam helicopter pilot.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I'm hearing, like, through the grapevine, that pizza wants to throw a pizza at me and put the head on. So I know if I'm on the helicopter with you, I'm going to be safe. Because you can do all those maneuvers, to get me away from the pizza throw.
Well, what you can't see is that, when I'm looking forward and you're sitting behind me looking out, what you can't see is I got a big smile on my face the whole time too.
I'd be smiling even more. Yeah. I remember you, from the last show. Yeah. And I'm so much more excited that, you're at that point of this museum, and you could see all these things happening. And so it's just a matter of time, Yeah. And I think once that museum opens up to the fullest, I think it's going to be a phenomenal experience for the whole entire family.
Yeah.
I think it's going to draw Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts.
That's on the drawing board.
School trips.
In fact,
there'll be lots of school trips too.
I assume you're familiar with the Gary Sinise Foundation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We've been working with them. They have been putting programs together, taking World War II, Korean War vets, taking them to museums, and having be docents for school children, and. So it's honoring the vet. They're getting to tell their stories in these military museums. Well, guess what, guys? We got that 2-mile runway right across the road from us at Grissom. Bring bring the vets in, the Vietnam veterans in, let them take flights. We've got people that are donating money to pay for Vietnam veteran flights for those that can't afford it, and having school children there that they can learn from these vets that were in the war, not necessarily pilots, but of course pilots and crew members will be there. But yeah, that's all in the works, and we're looking forward to it because it's a museum. It's a flying museum, and Gary Sinise Foundation is working with us, and we're trying to put things together. I'm sure it'll happen. It's just a matter of time. Of course, we have to finish the museum before we can do anything, but that's all in the works. So yeah, we've got a lot of big plans. Yes.
So Phil, there's give us an idea, since we're getting close to the end of the show, like how much what types of, well, I'm just looking at the clock. I don't know if it's that quite, but
I'm having too much fun.
Me too. We can keep going on. I mean, I'm just wanting to know if we could throw in there that, like, your fundraising. Isn't there other fundraising things you guys do to raise money for the museum?
Correct. The museum itself is $3 million. We're at like 2.6 or 2.8. So we're pretty much on track. We had to start building the building before we were fully funded. Right now, our temporary museum is in a building that's donated to us, and the Air Force is telling us they're going to be tearing the building down. It's a hangar. They're going to be tearing it down because it's too close to the runway. Of course, it's been that way since World War II, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that is happening as far as building the physical museum. But then we also have a goal of $1 million in a rainy day fund that will ensure the perpetuity, big word, of the museum. It's going to allow us to do scholarships for children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, whatever, of Vietnam veterans. And then, like I say, mostly just to ensure that the museum will be able to continue on. So it's all been done by donations. I had one guy give me $5 towards the museum. I did a presentation on flying helicopters in Vietnam, and he bought a book, and he said, "Here's $5 for the museum." And I said, "No problem, taking care of it." I've got we've got a couple of Vietnam veterans that have donated over $100,000 each.
Wow.
Some of the sponsors of the Cincinnati Reds, JTM Meats, and the Cincinnati Reds have donated several tens of thousands of dollars to the museum. They've really been a huge support for us. So there's a lot of support for the museum. A lot of patriots, guys that are not veterans. They're donating in kind. They're donating some of the building materials, the gravel, the concrete. We had a group of guys, they had to drill some test wells on the building site. They came in on their own on a Saturday and spent most of the day doing that. So it just so happened that was a day that we were exercising one of the aircraft. So we went over and picked them up and took them for a flight around the museum. So it's just been amazing. It's been amazing. But again, it's all donations, no grants, no loans, just all donations from veterans and patriots.
Awesome. When's it going to be? There's another question. When will the museum be opening? Approximately when will it be?
Oh, okay. Every second weekend of August, we have what we call the gathering of veterans and patriots at the museum. They're at the museum site. And we give membership flights. We do a reenactment Saturday and Sunday of a landing, and it just so happens there's some bad guys around that are not real happy that these helicopters have landed the troops there, so they get in a firefight, and it's just a reenactment of a typical insertion of troops. And so anyway, we had our gathering last year at the museum. It was just a shell. I don't know if it's going to be done by this second weekend of August, but it'll certainly be very close to being done, and we'll be doing our gathering there. And again, we give membership flights, we do the reenactments, and put a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces. It's Saturday and Sunday. Let me look real quick. Whatever that second weekend in August is. That would be 12th and 13th. 12th and 13th. So it's about an hour's drive north of Indianapolis. So if somebody wanted to fly in and rent a car, but that's now the temporary museum is still open. Now it'll open back in April. The reason we don't open it 367 or 24/7, whatever, there's no heat in the building, no air and no heat. So of course we can open doors in the summer, but it gets quite cold in there. It's very, very expensive to heat that old World War II hangar.
Oh yeah.
So we don't even try. We do our maintenance there in the early spring. So the temporary museum opens in April, and it's open till like October. But our new museum will be open 367 whatever all year. So that's that. But the website is AmericanHuey369.com, and that gives you all the events. We have usually, before COVID, we would have like 18, 19 events every flying season from April till November. But last couple of years, we've only been able to do like 10 or 12. But the website, American Huey 369, will give you the events where and so on. Every once in a while, it's not a flying event. We're there for a static display, but by far, most of our events are flying events, and you can take a flight with us. One thing I started to say earlier, and we got sidetracked. We were talking about that we were doing that stuff that we did in Vietnam. And I remember we were at the machine gun shoot in Knob Creek, Kentucky one year. And we have spotlights that we put on the aircraft when we remain overnight at these events. And we're walking down to the firing line for the night shoot. And as we're walking maybe 30 or 40 yards away from the aircraft, looking at the nose of the aircraft, we're walking down the road. I just stopped and I looked at that helicopter with the spotlight on it. And I said to one of the other guys, excuse my French, folks, but I looked at one of the other guys and I said, we really did that shit, didn't we? And he said, yeah, we did. And it was just that moment with that spotlight on the helicopter that we really did fly those things in combat every day. And it was just one of those, I don't know, what's the word? You guys can help me out. Catharsis or whatever. It just It just struck me that you
had a moment.
We were 19, 20, 21 years old doing that stuff.
Right.
And it just seemed unreal.
It's like two lifetimes.
It's like one of those things you see on Facebook.
Ago.
You see it on Facebook. You see one of these memes on Facebook where they'll say that old guy that you see in Walmart, with the veterans hat on, the Vietnam veterans hat, and then they have a picture of him, carrying one of his wounded buddies on his shoulder, say, "You'll never be as badass as he was," And think of it. Think of it. What you did. I mean, it's so honorable. So honorable. I'm at a loss for words.
Well, thank you. It didn't start out that way. But you're right. That's what happened, and no regrets whatsoever. And I'm very, very proud to have flown with the men that I did. Ladies, I'm sorry there were no female pilots in Vietnam. Although I did hear rumor a couple of guys became transgender, but that's another story. But anyway, yeah, you're right. I've always been very proud of it. Felt very fortunate to have been given the privilege of doing it. But again, I'm no hero. The guys that are the heroes are the ones that didn't make it back to their families. Those are the heroes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Take my word for it that if it wasn't for you chopper pilots, that Vietnam War would be twice as long as it is.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
For sure.
And well, we knew you guys on the ground were depending on us, and that's why we took the chances we did. And Nikki, you put up a thing there thanking me. Whoever sent it, thank you. It's like I say, it was a privilege. Yeah, the Facebook user. It was absolutely a privilege to be able to do that. And again, a lot of times I still had a smile on my face even there.
Yep.
You guys were like the angels coming to save everybody.
Well, and again, that's why we took the chances that we did a lot of times, because we knew the guys on the ground were depending on us. And
Right.
quite frankly, there's no way I wanted to spend any time on the ground. You wouldn't catch me down there for nothing. And of course, the guys on the ground were saying the same thing. Hey, you wouldn't catch me up there for nothing. So it doesn't matter what you were trained for.
Yeah.
I got a question. I was just thinking, what in your whole career as a pilot that you are with the helicopter, if you like had that second, what was your proudest moment on being an operator of the helicopter? That if you look back at your whole career, what was where you could say, you know what, I did really good, because everything went against you, but you came out successful, and say, wow, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was the night I was wounded. I was wounded in the arm. I was flying. When the round hit my arm, it knocked my hand off the throttle and the control that controls your up and down. And we were only a couple 100 feet out of the LZ. So because it knocked my hand and arm up, I rolled off throttle, not realizing it because I got a grip on it. And we started falling out of the sky. And I knew I'd been hit. And so I yelled to the co-pilot. I said, I'm hit. He grabbed the controls, felt the throttle was loose. So he rolled the throttle on and entered emergency procedure, which is go all the way down with the collective, which is your lift. And so at night, we're falling out of the sky. There are flares, so I can dimly see the ground that's coming up at us real fast. And I knew we were going to die. There was no question. I was just hoping at night. So I grabbed the controls and pulled power back in to try to get us out of there. But I was just hoping that if we crashed, somebody might survive. But I knew we were going to crash, and I knew we were going to die. And all this happened within just a couple of seconds. But because of our training, the co-pilot was going to fly us into the ground. He froze on the controls. I've rarely said that because it makes him sound bad, but he initiated emergency procedure. He did the right thing. But then I had to recover us. But point being that because of our training, we survived. He did what he was supposed to do initially. He initially stabilized the aircraft for a second or two, and then I had to get back on the controls with no feeling in my hand or my arm, just because I knew where the controls were from flying all the time. And we saved the life of two guys because we had two wounded on board that we had just picked up. Every November 15th, that one surviving guy, it's either an email or a phone call. How you doing? The other fellow has since passed away. There was a third troop who had a sucking chest wound, and he was the reason we took the chance we did. We knew it was a hot LZ. It was at night. There were aircraft flying all over the place. It was a very, very busy place, and he died on the way back to the hospital ship. It was about a 20-minute flight to the hospital ship. Our medic worked on him. He got some response from him, but he just finally, couldn't breathe anymore. But that was the soul defining moment, I guess, that we got in big trouble. Our training saved us, and in the aftermath of all that, we also saved two guys' lives who now have families that wouldn't have had otherwise.
You know what? When you think about that, that's priceless. To think that you guys made those two that you saved, though you guys saved many, lived a productive life. That's you can't explain to somebody what a great feeling that is. When you save someone's life like that, it's unbelievable what you guys have done. unbelievable.
Yeah, thank you. I agree, and I didn't have anything to do with it. I was just one of the actors. But the best way that I've heard it put is another medevac pilot, the first cab medevac pilot, said it best at one of their reunions. He said, "Guys," he says, "somewhere in Nebraska, there's a grandfather buying his grandchildren ice cream, and the only reason he can do that is because you saved his life, and he doesn't even know who you are."
Right.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what
Thank
Well
you.
said.
I can't
Well
take credit
said.
for that, but I remember it.
Yeah, I say that in my book too. That when the medics, when I was hit, when the medics came and helped me out, the one guy the first medic wouldn't come to me because I was in a firing lane.
Mhm.
But when I rolled out of the way, had to get out of the way before I get shot again. This other medic came from Charlie Company, and I didn't know him. And he said he's going to help me fix me up, But anyway, he jumped on the chopper that dusting me off, and he was in a sling. This is only a matter of minutes after I was loaded up, and then another medic jumped on with him, and I say to my boy, I said, "This medic saved my life."
Yeah.
I don't even know his name.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I let me take 30 more seconds and a dust-off pilot that gave me a story to put in one of the books, and he's telling me, totally unrelated to the story, he's telling me, he said, "I'm on an airplane going somewhere." He said, "I don't even remember where it was," and he said, "The guy sitting next to me, we get to talking, and he said, we find out that we're both Vietnam veterans." And the guy says, "Well," he says, when my friend tells him that he was a dust-off pilot, the guy said, "Well," he says, he says, "I was picked up by a dust-off." And he says, "I remember to this day, the back of the pilot's helmet said, 'Hang in there, buddy.'"
Wow.
Guess who? That was the pilot that he was sitting next to.
No kidding.
Years later. And so he sent me a picture of that helmet, the back of that helmet. So in the next book, that helmet and that story is in the book.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just
amazing.
Some of the stories are just amazing. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, he said, "I don't know who the guy was or what his face looked like, but he said, I remember that helmet."
Yeah. There's a multitude of unknowns who did so much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And got so little credit, really.
So if it wasn't for that, it'd just been two ships crossing in the night.
Yeah.
How we doing for time, Nikki?
We're a little low.
You got a pretty faithful Facebook user there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for your support there, dude or dudette.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
Yes. Well, I guess it's time, right, Nick? Oh, Phil, we again want to thank you so much, man. You had such great stories.
Oh, my pleasure.
I want to have you on again because you got too many stories to just
400 of them. 400 of them. You got the time?
Yeah. That'd be great.
You're a great guest. You're a great guest, Phil. And thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Well, I very much appreciate it. It's a privilege for me, and I just like I told you at the beginning of the show. What kind of a man would I be if I didn't tell their stories?
That's great.
And so that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, thank you.
God bless you.
The next time that you're on the show, now I have to admit that I know you. Before I didn't, but I met you, but I don't know where. But no, that's another story. Phil, thank you.
Hey, Phil, I got to ask you a personal favor. Okay?
What's that?
Okay, you know the Gary Sinise Foundation,
right?
Okay, do you know Gary Sinise personally?
I have not met him. I have not. I have volunteered for the organization, but so far they haven't needed me yet. But once we get the museum built, I'm sure they will.
Well, I sent one of my books to their foundation, I guess. I never heard anything from them. I was just wondering if you ever got it. If you could ever do me the honor, just
yeah,
drop a line.
Yeah, if it was Rocky Blyer you were looking for, I might be able to do something, but I haven't missed. Gary Sinise had to cancel a lot of his appointments the last few months. He's got a sickness in the family. That's all we've been told, but he had to cancel a lot of his appointments. But I've seen him on a couple of TV shows since then. But I read his book. If you get a chance, if you just read the first couple of chapters, which is how he got involved with the foundation and everything, most of the rest of it was his acting career, which is interesting. But the first couple of chapters in his book, I forget what it's called, something about giving back or patriot or whatever. But it's just his face on the cover. Excellent read. Like I say, for us veterans, especially the first couple of chapters. How he got involved in supporting veterans, but he seems to be a very genuine man, very, very appreciative of the military, and he's supposed to be at the museum once we get it open. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, gentlemen, lady.
Phil,
thank
God
you.
bless you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Phil.
Thank you.
Give my love to your family.
I'm sorry.
Give my love to your family. Okay.
Oh, I will certainly do that.
Give our love to your family. God bless you.
Happy and healthy New Year to you, Phil.
Yep.
I'll take everyone I can get.
Okay, great.
All right.
God bless you, buddy. All right.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch.
God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
Bye, everybody. Good night, everyone.
Good night. God bless everyone. Thank you for coming on. Be back
Don't
in 2
forget
weeks.
to go to the lastgoodbye-book.com.
All right. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Happy New Year. Great show, Phil. I was glad to have you back.
Thank you. Anytime.
God bless. And don't forget.
Good night.
Phil's books.
Yeah. I'll get you one.
Okay.
All right.
There it is.
I'll get you another one.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Say goodbye for the last time. You must say goodbye for the last time. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry,